Even a madman has a sober moment. Every madman has a time when he will come to his natural senses and ask himself, what am I doing here? Even in the Bible, the prodigal son, the Bible said that the prodigal son came to his senses. And that is exactly what happened to me. I got to a point where I came to my senses and I began to ask myself, what am I doing here? I'll be talking to you about my journey out of cultism and how I got to where I am today. I want to thank everyone that has followed me this far. I want to appreciate everyone that has subscribed to my YouTube channel. I want to thank you for liking and commenting. But if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the subscription button and the notification bell. I'll be bringing in more content, more videos, more story of my life to you. And I'll be telling you much more. So please don't forget, subscribe, like, and comment. I need to get questions from you. I need to answer your questions. Hi, my name is Excellence Maduka. I am a life coach and an ex-campus cultist. Thank you once again for being with me. I've talked about my journey into cultism, how I was initiated. Now, I got into cultism as an innocent young man. But the moment I got initiated, I turned to something else. Something else, a new spirit possessed me. I became wicked, I became vicious, without even thinking. That is the same thing so many young men that have been initiated into cult. It's a spirit. The moment you get initiated, a spirit takes over you. A spirit begins to control you. Now, in one of our videos, when I talked about, I think the reasons why, how to identify a cultist, I talked about mind controlling. This is how it is. The moment you get initiated, the spirit begins to control your mind. You don't even think aright again. That was my case. Things began to happen. So at every moment, I discovered that, things began to deteriorate in my life. My academics began to drop. My association, I began to make more enemies. I made more enemies because the cult group that I belonged to had about 5 or 6 other cult groups that are contending with us. So you can imagine, me and every other person, contending with different people from different cults, having different enemies. In fact, I had more enemies than friends. Even though I was a very outgoing person, I was a very social person, but I still knew that I would always watch my back every time. I discovered that, I began to live in fear, just like so many cultists, so many people that are initiated into cult. I began to live in fear. Every time I wake up, I sit down and I ask myself, what am I doing here? Why am I doing all this? But you see, after some time, I'll still, come back again to do the things that I do. I began to live in fear. Even to the extent that I got afraid of my own shadows. Things changed drastically. So at this moment, I'm going to tell us how gradually I began to think back. I began to look back at several things, especially incidents that would have taken my life. And I sit down and I ask myself, supposing I was the one that was killed. You wake up in the morning and you hear that this your friend that you sat down with today, that you drank with today, is no more. That either he has been shot or he has been arrested or imprisoned. And you always sit back and begin to ask yourself. I know so many of you go through the same thing. Right now, even as I'm talking to you, you that is watching me right now, I know it's the same thing that you are thinking. It's the same thing that is going through your mind. Who next? After hearing that your friend has been dropped dead and you are asking yourself, who next? But the good news I have for you is that there is still hope for you. You can still come out just like me. So as you hear my journey how I came out of court, how I stood out, and how I maintained, and nothing happened to me. It will help you. Severally, a lot of assignments that were given to me. I told us about my first assignment, how I carried after that first assignment that I messed up. They began to give me several assignments, and I began to carry out several assignments, and successfully. But you see, there is one particular incident that caught my attention each time I sit down to think back at what I'm doing. I remember one of the newly initiated, cultists in my group. He came with his girlfriend, and they began to suggest to us. The girlfriend gave us the map of his father's house to go and rob his father's house. He gave us that one Sunday we will enter their house, at Owerri in Nigeria, Imo State. We will enter their house, and where the father was a merchant. The father, was a very big businessman. He was a trader. So most of his money, he doesn't go to bank. So the girl made us to understand that his father does not go to bank. So every evening they bring bundles of money. So she wanted us to go and rob the father. And she gave us a roadmap that every Sunday, all her siblings, everybody at home, they will all go to church except his father. And his father does not come out till about 1 a.m. And there's a place where he keeps his money and all that. She provided the gun and provided the way to carry out this assignment. But what happened? The only thing that made us not carry that assignment, we were looking for someone that is going to drive the car, and we could not find. So we began to procrastinate. until we couldn't. But I sat down one day and I asked myself, if I had gone for this operation and something had gone wrong, I would either have been shot dead, or I would have been in prison by now. I would have rotted in prison by now. So these are many things that each time I sit down, I ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I into this? How do I get out of this? The mentality they gave to us was, the moment you come in, you cannot go out. You remember in one of the oaths that we took, during initiation, that I enter alive and I come out dead. If I spill the secret of this confraternity, may my head roll, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. I said that in my last video. Just, watch that video and you'll get details of that. And all these things, I became, each time I remember the oath that I took, how do I get out of this? Please, I need you to understand this. There are only two ways to get out of court. There are only two ways. For those of you that is about to join, for those of you that has intention to join, please hear this. There are only two ways to get out of court. And that two ways I'm going to tell you. I'm going to, tell you the two ways, the only two ways. And one of them is by death. I enter alive, I come out dead. And the second way is by Christ. I will explain to you how it happened to me. So all this while, each time I go back home, I try to hide my identity. I try to hide my nature. My parents did not really, they were not able to depict who I was, because when I get back home, I try to pretend, I calm down. But when I'm outside, I'm something else. But the only person that had, a hint that sensed that something is wrong with me was my younger sister. My younger sister was she was the first person that gave her life to Christ in my house, and she was the only Christian, practicing Christian in my house. So she began to, to notice some of the things that I do. By the way, I am the first son of my mother in my house there, and she's my younger sister. So she began to notice so many things. She noticed how I bring in women at home, how I follow women, and the kind of boys, the kind of people that I was hanging out with. And she began to pray for me. My sister took time to pray for me, Though she never preached to me, she never came to me to preach to me, to tell me, brother, because she just could not, pinpoint. She could not really lay her hands in whatever I was doing or whatever I was going through. So, but all she knew was something was wrong with her brother. So she kept praying for me. She kept fasting for me. Sometimes when she fasts, we notice that she's fasting. We even, we rush her food and we eat her food, but not knowing that she was, she was taking time to pray and to fast for me. At night, in the evening in our room, we begin to play, our hot music, our hot jam, in our room. And we because, we are 4 boys and 2 girls. And, we'll play our music loud. She will come into our room and switch off our music. She will go back to her room and she'll begin to play soft, good Christian music, like those days, Maranatha music, Ron Kenoli, Bob Feet, and all whatnot. She will be playing, and the whole place will be saturated with the presence, the whole place. And as she's playing this music, I will lie down and I'll begin to think. I'll begin to reminisce. What am I doing here? I begin to look back at things that, that are where I'm not supposed to be. Like I told you, I came from a very responsible home. My parents gave us good training. They made us attend Sunday school. In fact, in my church those days that I attended, I was one of the, people that represented our church in Bible quiz. So I had good upbringing. But you see, each time she plays, I sit down and I began to look back. How do I get out of this? How did I get to this level? How did I, everything about me, my results, at that point, my result was nothing to write home about. How can it be? When, most times I'm not in school. Most times we are out carrying out assignments. Sometimes I'm out of school for like 1 month. I'm out of school for 1 month. Sometimes, especially, when there is any, chaos in school, you see so many of us will try to, leave school so that anytime the school calms down, we'll return. This was the kind of life that I was living. And I asked myself, will I ever graduate with this kind of, knowing that a lot of people, they go to school, they don't, and their education system, but I knew I needed to make my parents proud. Each time, this is the life that most people lived. And so many of you, if you are true to yourself, watching this video now, if you are true to yourself, you come to that point when you ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I allowing myself to be controlled? Why am I allowing myself to be used by the devil at this point? Like I say, there is still hope for you. God helped me and God will help you. So this is how I began my journey, and gradually, I was still doing what I was doing, but I said, how do I get out of this? The fear of when I get out, what will happen to me? When I come out, what will they do to me? Because, we know, me personally, I know what we do to those that, that came to tell us that they are no longer, they want to throw in the towel, they are no longer in. I know what we do to them. One incident, one very particular incident, each time I remember that, it makes me draw back at taking the decision that, I was supposed to take. I remember one time we came back for first semester. After our first semester, break, we came back, and one of our, members came to us and told us, in fact, he didn't come to us, when we went to him to collect his semester dues, because every semester you must pay dues. Every semester you must pay dues. That dues is meant to use to service the armory. We'll buy more guns, more armors, and that dues, we use it to service the head of the confraternity and other things. So every semester we are meant to pay dues. If you don't pay your dues as when due, they will collect your things. They will disgrace you in front of your classmates, that which you don't want people to know who you are. So they'll come to your class, they'll just tell you to lie down, they collect anything, any valuable thing. So when this young man was approached to pay his, semester dues. He said that he's no longer with us. He's no longer doing again. He's a church man. He's a church boy. That he's born again. That he's now going to church. We said, nobody will disturb you. As long as you told us that you're a church boy, we will not. But you see, we'll monitor you. So we began to monitor him to know whether he's living a compromised life. The kind of life that he's living, that he has left church. He's a church boy. So we now sent, the assignment that we gave to the newly initiated. Of course, he didn't know them. He's not very familiar with them. So we give them that assignment. Remember the assignment they gave to me to trail that young man that we're supposed to hit. That's the kind of assignment that we give to this young man, to train him and follow him and see his activities, what he does. So this young man that claimed that he's no longer with us, that he's a Christian, he's born again. So he will, after church, he will leave and go to his girlfriend's place. His girlfriend was staying off campus. He will stay in his girlfriend's house for a long time. He will come back and, not knowing that people were following him, that people were looking at him, he will bring out his cigarette, he will smoke, he will drink. So they were bringing this report. So they still approached him. Are you sure? You need to pay your dues. You need to pay your dues. And if you don't pay your dues, that is no longer with us, that he has, he's now a church boy. He has told us that he doesn't want to do. We say, okay, no problem. So these guys, we now plan the hit on him. Just a mild hit. That was the first assignment we gave to this young man. That as he's coming out from wherever he is going or he went to, they should just carry out a hit. And as they carry out a hit, they should be mentioning the slogan of one of the rivalry courts, so that he would think that it's one of the rivalry courts that came to hit him. So they did that, and they just brushed him a little bit, gave him few matches cut. And he just ran and came to us. He came to our room and he said, these people, they have price. They need to pay their price. So we're just looking at him. We're looking at him. We said, what? Go and meet your church people. Go and meet your church people. And that was how he did not go back again. That was how he stayed. I'm going to tell you further how, all these things played out. How, gradually, step by step, I began to withdraw my activity, and I began to, sit back, and I began to ask myself, how do I get out of this? In my next video, watch out, and you will know how I came out and the steps that I took. Remember, watch this video. Keep watching my story. Go back to the beginning where I began, where it all started, and you'll be able to follow up. Don't forget, if you have not subscribed to this video, please hit the subscription button, subscribe, hit the notification button, like my video, comment. If you have questions, I'm ready to answer your questions. Please go to the comment box and ask whatever question that you want to ask, and we're going to answer you. Don't forget, stand out, don't blend.